Rolling.
Time, so infinite, yet so limited. Time, time X. These are both Timex watches. I actually wore these pretty much every day, one or the other one, from when I was in middle school, probably 6th grade, till the end of high school. Once I got out of high school, I stopped wearing them. At that point, I had a cell phone that had a big enough display, and I don't like crap on my wrist. I just got tired of shit on my wrist. I'm wristless right now. I have nothing on there. I don't surrender my sovereignty to any tracking device or any other weird ass thing on my
Except
arm.
for your phone.
Yes, but that one I disable a lot of the location services, and I don't have the GPS on it. But this is a display. Neither one of these work. They haven't worked probably for 10 years or whatever. It's been a long time since I've had a functional one. I think I could get them working. I beat the hell out of these things. I used them a lot. I liked it. I usually like to flip them like this, that, even when I was wearing them. It's like an OCD thing that I would do sometimes. They're only like $20 watches. They're very utilitarian because I do like efficiency and utilitarian things. They had the date, the time.
I kind of like the kind with the green, glowing kind of thing.
That's what both of those had. They had a green glow when you clicked it, so it was easy to read in all times of day and light and that stuff. But
I have to say, I never really liked this type of band with the stretchy metal because I always it always kind of like
pinched.
It pinched. Yeah, did that happen with you?
Yeah, you just get used to it, pussy. No, I'm just kidding. It's fine. It wasn't too bad. And I liked them. I thought they were good. But then I also felt like that era and that time really changed and really shifted. There's a thing that I watched. It was the Thomas Fieldman. You know, the guy who did The World Is Flat and the Lexus and the Olive Tree and stuff. He did that book. His newest one is called Something About Being Late, and it's really interesting. He talks about how 2007 was the year that really shifted technology, and that's when the cloud came into this, verbiage for people, and the iPhone and all these devices came and changed things. And to some extent, I feel like this watch is a symbol of a particular era in my life, but I also transcended and grew beyond that era. And also,
so what years did you buy these?
I got these from 2003 probably, is when I'd say it started, till 2008, 2010, somewhere around there. I wore them on or off, or you know what I mean.
Would you switch? Like, would you wear like the one day, and then if you were in more of a gold mood than a silver mood? Or?
Yeah, it just really varied. So I had the flexibility of that, and I liked that. And they were pretty cool, and I was glad I had them now. I'll go over this very quickly. I never wore this thing. I just found it in my watch drawer. It's a standard gym one. I don't know if it lights up or does much, but that's about.
Looks like it maybe needs a battery. Although and it looks like the plastic stuff was never taken off the screen.
Yeah, Mom got 4 of them. They were buy for one get 3 4.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I don't think it was that ridiculous, but it would have surprised me if we had a duplicate one of that watch somewhere.
It looks kind of like a precursor to a Fitbit.
Yeah. So.
Because you see people wearing those all the time, like Fitbits and smartwatches are starting to become.
It's from Surrender Your Sovereignty Watch Company.
Yeah.
And I'm just kidding. They have a tracking chip and it monitors everything. Then I don't know. It's weird. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'm going to focus mostly now on this one. And this is a watch from 1967. What do you want to say the name of it?
Oh, I'm sorry. It is a Tegra.
Tegra. It is a Swiss watch. My father got it in 1967 when our family lived there. His parents and them lived in Europe. They lived in Switzerland. They worked for Suran, or whatever it's called, the place that invented the web browser, the Tim Lee-Briers. Hand me that book. So this is a book called Weaving the Web by Tim Lee-Briers. He actually was working at the European Science Agency. Basically, it was this big science agency, and that's where my grandfather was a exchange scientist for a year. and they lived there in the late '60s. And Dad bought this watch for $8 in '67 there, and he used the watch as his like main watch every day from like 1967 until sometime after 1997, before 2007. I don't know the exact year, but it was over 30 years, probably less than 40 years. What really did it in was this thing on the side. He had that. I think when he would go to the gym, he had a digital watch that he'd wear, but most of the time during the day, he would just have this watch and just use that. And I think Swiss, you really like Army knives. You should do a whole video maybe on your Army knives and that, because the Swiss make some pretty nice things. I'd say from Army knives, bank accounts, and
well, and that's kind of an interesting
watches.
Yeah, and that's an interesting side note. The Swiss Army knife company, Victorinox, they actually made nothing but Swiss Army knives up until around the time that 9/11 happened, and they had to diversify because there were new regulations on how those knives could be shipped, because they couldn't be shipped on aircraft anymore, or at least they could only be shipped on special types of aircraft. So there was a limit that it complicated their shipping logistics, so they had to diversify, and it was only then that they started making Swiss Army watches, Swiss jackets, a whole clothing line, kind of other things, multi tools that didn't have knives.
But they've never laid anybody off either. They're still a really cool, adaptive company.
No, they had to shut down after 9/11 because of all of these new laws. They had to shut down for, I think, a year and a half, something like that, several months at least. They had to shut down and sort of retool everything. But then they gave all of their old employees the option of getting rehired back on.
Huh.
But they never actually officially laid anyone off. It was more of a kind of a sabbatical they gave everybody, from what I've read.
But it's cool how that did kind of force them to adapt, but that they still managed to adapt and still, you know what I mean?
And the stuff that they make is very good quality. I mean, the knives are amazing quality, but all the other stuff, they're this it's this small town in the Swiss Alps. There's a really cool documentary on it on YouTube that I think it was the Discovery Channel or Nat Geo. You can find it on YouTube. It's one of my favorite things on YouTube to watch, where they go into the factory, and it's this really amazing place. Everything is very efficient. You can tell that they have very strict quality control, and it's a really cool thing to watch. Cool thing to watch. After you're done with this watch video, and actually this is part one. I think we'll make we're gonna come back and do a part two where right now we're looking at the Deviant Historian's watch collection. I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna show you all of my watches, and I have quite a few. I was pretty into watches. I'm a guy who likes his bling. I like jewelry. It's kind of an odd thing, because I'm actually, this is going to sound weird that I'm saying it, but I'm actually a pretty masculine guy in a lot of ways. But the one thing that I do afford myself is that I really do like wearing rings and watches, neck chains, stuff like that. So I really do I like my jewelry, and I like my bling. I like that as an alternative to like tattoos and stuff, because tattoos, nothing
are permanent. They don't age well.
They're permanent. Yeah. They don't age particularly well. A nice piece of jewelry you can take off if you have to. I mean, obviously, you guys, if you follow my channel, you know that I like jewelry, because this thing probably looks familiar to you.
Ooh, the Masked Magician revealed his bling.
That's my logo on my channel, as well as pretty much everything else. And my business cards, everything. This thing is on there. My personal symbol. So, but yeah. So anyway.
How long have you had that?
I've worn it. I bought it probably like 2001, 2002
Wow.
from a thrift store. It's silver. I just confirmed recently that it was silver because it got stained by bleach, and pretty much the only silver-colored jewelry that can be stained by bleach is silver, because nickel, steel, aluminum, everything else will not be. But silver corrodes. So it's it cost me like $2.88. I actually calculated that the silver content in it has like tripled in value since then, in the last 15 years. And I've worn it pretty much my whole adult life, like from high school on. I've worn it. There have been times when maybe I took it off and I didn't wear it for a while, but for the great majority of my adult life, I've worn it, and so it's been with me. I actually can't take it off. And when a lot of people say that, when a lot of people hear that, they say, "Doesn't that bother you?" And for me, it doesn't, because it's really is a part of me at this point to the point where I don't really want to take it off. I'm perfectly comfortable wearing it and just having it on all the time. But anyway, we're kind of talking about the larger context of jewelry, but getting back to the watch thing, I do also wear watches, and I'll show you this. This will be showcased more. This will be more kind of like extensively talked about in the next video. But this is my watch. I've worn it. I've had it for about 3 years. It is an Armatron. As you can't see color very well on this thing because of the lighting, but it's got a blue face, square face. It doesn't have numbers on it. It just has the 4 markers, which are made out of Swarovski crystals. Swarovski is an Austrian company that makes glass crystals and lenses. And they've been around for over 100 years. It's a quartz accuracy watch, battery powered, stainless steel strap thing. It's all stainless steel. And I really like the aesthetics of it. I've always been into watches with square faces. I always thought those looked pretty classy, and I like watches with blue faces as well. I'm not sure why. I just always have, and it just in the metal. I'm not a big fan of gold type jewelry. I'm more into sort of the gray metals, and I like the sort of silver colored tones. And it's nice looking, but it's also not too flashy. And Armatron is a good company. It's not like a really high end company like Rolex, but it's also not a really cheap company. It's kind of a mid range watch company. It's like middle of the road. It's not terribly high end and expensive, but it's not cheap either.
Wasn't that like $50 or?
Yeah, it cost me $50, yeah. And I plan on wearing it long term. I polish it. I actually have some metal polish at home, and I polish it regularly. And even though it has some light scratches on it, it still looks pretty good. And with care and maintenance, I expect to have it for a long time. But one of the things that inspired me to make a video about watches is that I've noticed that wearing a watch, and the Deviant Historian touched on how, a lot of people don't wear watches anymore because of cell phones, and it's become an unnecessary thing now. Talking a little bit about the history of watches, watches used to, in here, I'll take it off so that you have something to look at.
Take it off.
Yeah, so that you have something while I'm blabbing on, so you have something to look at. You're not just looking at this stool. That's what this is a stool, like the mesh of a decorative stool. But one thing that watches used to well, go ahead.
Weren't they pocket watches originally?
Yes, pocket watches. That's exactly what I was about to say. If you were a man, you would wear a pocket watch. You would not wear a wristwatch. Women wore wristwatches. Men wore pocket watches. And it was actually documented. Men at the time said they'd rather be caught wearing a dress than wearing a wristwatch.
Wow.
That was how strongly men felt about pocket watches. Like, you wore a pocket watch. That was a man's watch, was a pocket watch. That changed after World War II. Or World War I, sorry. During World War I, soldiers would have their watches, and of course they're in the foxholes and stuff. They can't be looking at their wrist every time they want to know what time it is, or they can't be looking at they can't be taking it out of their pocket when they want to know what time it is. They had to start wearing it on their wrist. So what they did was the army started making these bracelets, leather bracelets, that you could slide the pocket watch into. So you wore your pocket watch as a wristwatch with this big kind of, it was kind of relatively bulky because obviously pocket watches are pretty big, but it was like this bracelet that you would slip the watch into. It had a little like sleeve thing that you could strap the watch into and wear it on your wrist. And after World War One, because of that, after World War One, wristwatches became acceptable for men to wear because it became manly. Because after all, if a soldier can wear a wristwatch like that, then it's no longer. It kind of broke the negative stereotype of the negative social norm that it was just for women. It started after World War One. It became like, okay, it's okay for men too, and so men have been wearing pocket watches ever since. And they used to be wind up. You would wind them up, which was kind of cool. But then eventually they started using quartz action. There's actually a little piece of actual quartz in these watches that responds to electricity. I've actually researched this. You run electricity through the crystal, and quartz reacts to electricity in a very predictable way because of its chemical composition, and it's so reliable that it can actually be used to help the watch keep time, because it's just something having to do with what quartz is chemically composed of. It reacts to electricity in this really predictable way. So that's actually how a lot of modern watches, with the exception of automatic watches, keep time, and it's that reliable because it's the laws of physics that it's basically being dictated by. So, but the reason I wanted to make a video about watches is because over time, I've been wearing this thing for 3 years, and over time I've noticed that every single one of my friends comments fairly regularly on the fact that I have a watch, because I'm the only one of all of my friends. I have one friend who wears a watch regularly, but it's because his in-laws give him watches as presents, and so he wears them just to kind of keep them happy. Yeah. He doesn't really wear it of his own accord necessarily. It's just to please his in-laws. And then I have an older friend who wears watches, but he actually claims that the iron in his blood is magnetic, and so it throws off the time and throws off the time of the watch. So even though he'd like to wear a watch, he often doesn't, because he believes that he damages the watches, or he throws off the accuracy of them.
He needs an aluminum foil hat too to help balance it out, man.
Yeah, I don't know. It could very well be true, but I wear a watch, and I have for the last few years. And I remember there was a stigma for a long time. I think watches are making a comeback. But there was a stigma in the years after cell phones started becoming really popular and commonly used, that wearing a watch kind of made you look old, or made you seem old. And I feel like that's sort of lifting a little bit. Like, we had about a decade of that attitude, and I feel like it's sort of lifting a bit, and wearing a watch actually does good things for you. I mean, honestly, I think that my wearing a watch affects how people see me. And I mean, not just my friends, but I think strangers as well. Like, I can go out dressed in my laundry day clothes. I mean, dressed in like my oldest, rattiest pajamas. I can go out to the store or something. But as long as I'm wearing a nice watch, it makes you look better. It makes you look like, okay, he's dressed in these kind of old shitty clothes, but he's got a nice watch on. So this is obviously not him, because they look at the watch, and that trumps the clothes, because it's like, okay, he's just out to get a midnight snack. The watch indicates that he's not just some bum or some like stoner loser or something. He's like a guy who's got his shit together. And I think that some of my friends kind of have that, like, it maybe it doesn't make them respect me more, but it is something that they notice and that they comment on a very regular basis. They say, "Oh, you're the watch guy. You wear a watch," and it sets you apart. It really does. And I without exception, every single one of my friends and acquaintances has commented on the fact that I wear a watch. And at this point in history, maybe I'll change my mind at some point, but I am not a fan of the smartwatches. I'm not a fan of the Fitbits. I just don't think they look good. I don't think they're necessary. I don't think I'll ever really want to wear one. That could change because obviously I've changed my mind about other things. But I really feel good about the fact that I wear this kind of watch. And you can even see the crystals reflecting in there. But yeah, you were going to say something?
It's a classic, it's utilitarian, and it functions well.
It's decorative. It denotes a certain amount of class and possibly status, because people see you wearing this, and they know you're somebody who takes themselves somewhat seriously. I mean, I think that's kind of the message it sends, is that this is somebody who puts a little bit of effort into themselves because they wear this watch. You can see how the strap is, it's made out of stainless steel, which is frosted except for these little link parts here, which are not frosted. So it creates a little bit of contrast between the frosted and the non-frosted metal, which is kind of decorative and nice. And in the next video, I'll show you all my other watches. I actually bought another watch recently for my birthday, and in the next video, I'll show you that one. But yeah, I think it's done good things for me. I like the fact that I'm wearing it, and it speaks to who I am as a person, because I am kind of I don't know if I'd say an old-fashioned guy, but I think of myself as a somewhat classic guy, and wearing this watch kind of helps me kind of be in touch with that identity, and I'm definitely a proponent of wearing watches. And like I said, I like the fact that it's square. I like the fact that it doesn't have numbers, that it just has the marks like that. It kind of reminds me a little bit of almost like a sundial or something like that. But put the thing on, go outside, and continue on with my day, and it's pretty neat. It's not the strap is not it's not like this one where it stretches out. It has it has a thing that, like that, a hinge that you snap in like that. And I actually had them take out a couple of the links, because when I bought it, it was too big for my wrist, and they took out a couple of links. And now I've been working out a lot, and over time it started to get kind of small for my wrist, but it's not too bad yet. It still fits my wrist pretty well, and I wear it on my left hand. I know there's a guy I know who is in the military, I think the Air Force, and he actually wears his watch with the face on the other side of his wrist, like that, where the face is facing that way. And he told me that guys in the military commonly wear it that way because, especially in the Air Force, because if they're flying a plane and they've got their hands on the steering thing of the plane, they don't have to turn their wrist to see what time it is. They can just look at it. Just look at it like that. They don't have to turn their wrist as much to see what time it is. So he told me that if you see a guy wearing his watch like that, it's likely he's been in the military, and it's likely that he's either flown a plane or driven a tank or had some kind of a job where he was piloting something. And yeah, so we're closing in on a half an hour. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about, or?
I think that's pretty good with this.
Yeah. So I thought it'd be a cool idea for a video. In the next video, this will be part 1, and this is mainly the Deviant Historians collection. The next video, it will showcase my collection, and I have quite a few. I just have to go up in storage and find them, and I have some interesting ones. You're definitely going to want to stay tuned, because I have a few that you wouldn't expect. Some of them are antiques, some of them are just kind of odd. And I have some that have some kinetic motion components, and I think you'll really dig it. So long live watches. Go out and buy one.
One other thing really quick, what do you think the demographic breakdown of people who wear watches regularly and people who don't wear watches regularly? Because, I mean, even my dad, he wore one all the time, but he stopped after he retired.
I would say it's most common among older people and professionals, but I would say that it's also and also certain people who like certain urban styles, because you notice a lot of people who kind of like the urban style, sort of the pseudo gangster type thing. They wear watches, and those tend to be really big and oversized. If you notice, they tend to have the really big faces with a lot of bling on them and stuff. But that's the reality. That is the more urban style, is the oversized, kind of looks like they're made out of gold. They've got the big usually round face, and they kind of dominate the person's wrist. And so I would say that sort of people who are kind of swaggers or gangsta style people, older people, and professionals, people who kind of like to dress formal, maybe dress up for work. They wear a watch. I've actually had friends ask me for advice on how to buy a watch, or what kind of watch to buy, because what?
Nothing, just how to buy a watch. I was just thinking of.
Oh yeah, just like there's this thing called money,
in a store,
and it's currency, and you go to
Oh my god.
But no, like they've asked me for advice, like what kind of watch should I buy, and I can't really give you the answer to that. It's mainly just what you like and what you can afford. Armatron is a good brand, and Timex is a good brand. Casio is good. Casio tends to be more for sort of the people who like technology in their watch. I had a friend a few years ago who really liked the old Casios that were like calculators. He really thought that was cool. It was like sort of 1980s retro futuristic, and he would wear one of those, and he really liked it, even though of course he had a cell phone, so he didn't really need it, but he just liked the look of it. Basically just really browse around and check out a bunch of different styles, and whichever one kind of speaks to you and you can afford. Most watch brands offer a pretty wide variety of watches, so I would say you really can't go wrong. But definitely put some time into it, and if you can afford it, go ahead and buy more than one. I really only have this one that I bought the other one recently, but this is really kind of my main one. And I use metal polish, which I got a bottle of for a couple of bucks. And with the metal polish, I can keep it pretty shiny. It does have some minor scratches, but it's still looking pretty good. And don't worry about the scratches. I mean, that's inevitable. That's going to happen. It actually kind of adds a little bit of the character to the watch, to be honest. And I really dig the fact that your dad had this watch for so long, because it takes a certain kind of person to have a loyalty to their possessions like that. And I really do dig that he took this thing, that he wore this thing for like 30, 40 years, and was like, yep, I've got this watch and I like it and I'm going to stick with it. I mean, that's a cool thing about your dad, that he did that.
That's how he is with a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of disposability in society with a lot of possessions and a lot of things like that. What was the one thing that we talk a lot about? Just the accessories. This is almost like an accessory that somebody had, like a phone or another tool or another thing like that, and it almost becomes an attention or an attachment of the person themselves.
Yeah, like having a relationship with your devices.
Yeah,
is a term that I've used a lot. Yeah, and yeah, so yeah, we're closing in on the last 30 seconds or so, and like I said, I'll probably go ahead and combine part 1 and part 2, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll keep them separate videos, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and like and comment, and let me know what kind of watch you like, and if you have any any leads on some cool watches that I should look at, go ahead and let me know, and we'll see you in